The event's also just going to be recorded. So yeah, I'm assuming that everybody's happy with that. And once the recording's complete, we'll put it onto YouTube so that everybody has got access to it. And yeah, so as the chat moderator today, once Ansel's had a quick chat with Roy, he'll be talking to him for about 15 minutes or thereabouts. Then I'll come to the audience and go through whatever questions or comments and tributes you have. We will then, we're very blessed today to also have Alexander de Great with us. And so he will be playing a little calypso for us. And then we've got a surprise at the end. So I think that's about everything. So just as by way of introduction, I mean, everybody knows Ansel Wong CBE. He's Trinidadian born. He's allowed on the Guyana Speaks platform. So actually, this was his idea. So we extend our grateful thanks to him. He's a cultural and political activist who has been influential in, of course, many organizations, and particularly in the Black community here in the UK, where he's been based since the 1960s. He is the former chair of the Notting Hill Carnival Board and founder of Elimu Mass Band. He's an educationalist, an academic, and has had a wide-ranging career working at senior levels in various organizations in the public and also in the charitable section. This obviously includes as well with the Windrush Foundation, which was established in 1996 by Arthur Torrington. And then, of course, Ansel will be in conversation, as you know, with Roy Sawh. Just to give you a brief background, again, everybody, I'm sure, knows of Roy Sawh and his background. But for those, the younger generation who may not have been aware of the amazing contributions
Juanita,
Roy has made to this country, particularly with regards to his anti-racist activism, and you know, speaking out against immigration policy and the history of the British Empire. Just to let you know, he was born on a sugar estate in Guyana. At the time it was British Guyana, and he explains that it's sort of the next thing to slavery, and it's that galvanized his fight against racism and injustice. His Indian-born father was indentured to the plantation at the age of 6, and Roy and his siblings worked there too. He worked at the Cumberland Hotel in Marble Arch, and in 1958, he stumbled on Speaker's Corner by chance. Fascinated by the Coloured Workers Welfare Association, he decided the next Sunday to ask if he could speak on their platform. Apparently he was greeted with "Go home, you bleep, Ghana is independent." But anyway, undeterred, he spoke about racism and immigration, as I said, and about the British Empire for a period of over, well, 30 years. And, you know, I don't know if how many of you actually saw him at Speaker's Corner, but he actively sort of sought dialogue and appreciated the hecklers as well for their humor. In fact, you know, I often think of, I don't know if you can have a comic activist, but that's sort of how I think of Roy, because you know, his activism was injected with a lot of humor. However, in 1968, he was sentenced to 12 months in prison after police and magistrates interpreted his sort of jocular speeches as inciting violence, ironically under the 1965 Racial Discrimination Act, which was in fact intended to protect minorities. So, and Roy was also a member of the Communist Party. He studied philosophy in Moscow. He had 2 stints working in the Guyanese government and setting up a free university for Black studies in London as well. So that's the introduction. I'm going to hand over now to Ansel. Ansel, I believe that you're on, you can unmute yourself. So, and also Roy should be there. If you want to just see who's speaking, make sure on the top right-hand corner of your screens, you just press for speaker view, so that you just get the just Ansel and Roy. But huge welcome to Ansel and a huge welcome to Roy. So over to you, Ansel.
Just checking, Juanita, we're not going to show the video?
Ansel, I can't hear you.
Are we not going to be able to show the video?
I don't think you're on mute, so it may be a problem with your headphones.
It shouldn't be. All right.
Oh, Corinne is saying that she can hear you, so maybe it's I've got a problem.
Put your speaker on.
Hold on. Yes. Oh, brilliant! It's me. I was the one with the problem. Apologies. And I think we can hear Roy. Can we hear you?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, and we can see you. There's a slight echo. Hold on a second.
Okay, it's the Bluetooth. I probably hear. I was just saying, are we showing the video first? No, or not?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, sorry. My mistake.
mistake.
So I'm going to be sharing the video before we start. It's a 10-minute clip.
Oh, hold on.
So hold on 2 ticks. Let me see if I can. Not that one. Bear with me a second, because you may have a problem with sound. So I just want to make sure that I've got this right. So I'm going to share the screen. I need to share the sound. Optimize for video clip. Okay, this should work now. Hold on a second. Oh, I've lost it now. Hold on a second, sorry. You sent the clip to me, didn't you, Rod?
Yeah.
No.
And the organisers, please ask everyone to go on mute. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that for me. 1 second. Sorry about this, guys. I had it all laid out, and then it's disappeared off my screen, so I'm gonna have to bring it back up. For some reason, I can't find it at the moment. Ansel, do you mind just going ahead and speaking with Roy, and then we'll show it afterwards?
Certainly, not a problem.
Thank you.
Hi, Roy. Good morning.
Good morning.
You can hear me all right, Roy? Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm speaking to you from the wilds of Pinner in a very foggy morning, hence my aspirational background. A bit of a sunny climb. Probably you are much sunnier than us here. It's such a joy to speak to you after such a long time. We haven't actually talked. But we should have opened this session, Roy, with your performance at Speaker's Corner. And I wanted really to start off with that because that's one of the areas where I think you have an unrivaled reputation in terms of what you did at Speaker's Corner. And I can't help but thinking of Lionel Morrison describing your contribution. And Lionel said, beneath the surface of frivolity lurks a deep and permanent truth.
Ansel, sorry, I've got the video now. If you want us to show the video first.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
You've come home for cultural sustenance. Oh, you wouldn't have thought. You're Australian, you can't think. What would you? No, I didn't say home. Home, culturally. This is your home. You see, when our prisoners were overcrowded with convicts and criminals, we had to find some way to send your ancestors. That's how Australia came about. No?
200 years ago, yeah.
Yes, Captain Cook discovered it.
He was the first white man down there.
Oh, he was the first white man. You're learning, yeah! Hey, you're learning, that's right. See how you learn from us? That's right. Don't tell us you discovered. Say you were the first white man to arrive there, meaning there were black people before you. How are the Aborigines doing?
Not very well.
Not very well. And why don't you think they're not doing very well?
I'll tell you why, because the English, when they arrived, managed to kill off enough of them.
You mean the English managed to kill off a lot of them?
Yeah.
And you now killing the rest that survived? No, I don't mean you personally. I mean, you know, the English language is a bastardized language. Singular you, plural you. When I say you, I don't mean you singularly, I mean you Australians. Are they happy?
No.
Do you know of any, listen carefully, do you know of any country in the world where they speak English, where the Anglo-Saxon culture has been put into practice, and where the English have been, and they have met black people, that those black people are all right? Shall I call you some? In America, they call it the McCarran Act. In Canada, they call it the Anti-Asiatic White Preferential Immigration Bill. In New Zealand, they call it the Selected Migration Scheme. In South Africa, they call it apartheid. And in Australia, where you are not as cultured as the Anglo-Saxon, you used to call it the white Australian policy. And in England, the mother and the most superior of the Anglo-Saxon societies, they call it the Commonwealth Immigration Act. There isn't a country in the world where the English have been to that they have not passed laws in other people's countries, stopping other people from going in, accepting themselves. And that is why every night I go down and pray, please God, don't let the English get to heaven before us, because if you do, another immigration. And in Melbourne today, you have got what you call a commission for racial equality in Melbourne. But one would have assumed that if you have a commission for racial equality, it will do for the Aborigines. But it isn't. It deals with the Greeks. Yeah?
Yeah.
I know. My landlady is Australian.
She must be a nice lady.
Oh no, when I went looking for a room, had plenty of sign, rooms to let, sorry no blacks. And then I saw one, rooms to let, blacks welcome. So I went with an Australian landlady. I got the room, I became a tenant. 3 months later, I was the landlord. Aren't you terrible down there? You're a mixture of immigrants. Take Canada. 60% of the present population of Canada are fucking immigrants. Don't get angry when I say fucking. It's the name of a Chinese restaurant. You can go down to Queens where you find a whole lot. Fuck you, fuck I, fuck you, a whole lot. And when the Hong Kong Chinese coming, it's more fuck you. You like the Aborigines?
I don't know in person.
You mean you haven't actually met one? What language did you speak to him in?
English.
English. You assume he's a genius. You assume he's more educated than you. He speaks your language. My friend, any civilized or educated person will tell you that when you go to a country, if you don't like the customs, if you don't speak the language, if you don't like the way people live, all you've got to do is to leave and go back. Why did you go and change their lifestyle? Look at us blacks. When we came, we spoke better English than the English. We wanted to leave. They said, no, stay, please. We like curry and rice. Show us how to cook it. So we stayed. We have Indian restaurants, West Indian restaurants. And you ask English people, do you like Indians? No, don't like them. They smell of onion. But when you go to an Indian restaurant, all the bastards are in there. Please, ladies and gentlemen, when I call you bastards, don't get angry. Because when I came to this country many years ago, I didn't speak any English, and I still don't. And as I walked the streets of London, everybody said to me, you black bastard, you black bastard. I thought they meant, welcome to London. Here we are. We've transformed Britain. Look around. Look at it. Aren't it beautiful? Look. All these black people here, we've added a bit of color to your life. Look. Can you imagine getting up in the morning and everybody look white? Horrible. Well, look around, Isn't it nice? Say thank you. We are here to stay. And you know there's something the English would never understand? 40% of the black population of Britain were born here. You can't tell them to go home.
Okay, so there's a little break there. I think you've all got a feel for what Roy's Speakers Corners sessions were like, because you got a feel for his oratory. So I'll hand back over to Ansel.
Hi. Okay, Roy, are we connected? Are we together?
Yes, we are. You look very well, brother.
How are you?
I'm well.
It's good to see you after all these years, and it's an honor indeed. Yes.
I saw you a couple of months ago at the hotel in London, isn't it?
That's right. Yes. But still, like a couple of months ago, it feels like ages. Yes, because it's been too intermittent. But
you're a busy man. You're a busy man.
Right. We saw really very much an iconic performance there at Hyde Park, and I remember all of those kinds of events. Standing aside and watching the crowd and how you interact with the crowd, not daring to come inside the crowd in case you identify me. So, that was one of the things I did. But it reminded me, as I said earlier, of something that Lionel Morrison said about you in terms of your work at Speaker's Corner. And I quote him again, beneath the surface of frivolity lurks a deep and permanent truth. So you spoke with truthfulness. Can you remember what it was like at Speaker's Corner? You tell us what that truth was. What was your important truth that you wanted to get across to the people of the United Kingdom?
Well, the truth was, every foreigner in England was called a foreigner. The British and the English forget that they had an empire which comprised of different people, different races. And what people forget is that the British went to the Caribbean, went to the islands, and went to Africa, and went to all the other countries in the world, and invited these people to come after slavery was abolished and indentured workers did what it had to do. And if you remember, in the West Indies, we don't know anything about anything other than Columbus discovered the West Indies.
Mm.
And when we came to England, we realized that Columbus took an Englishman as his navigator in search of India. But when he got to the West Indies, he said, if that's in the East, then that must be in the West. And those are where the word West Indians came about.
Okay. Sorry, Roy, but excuse my bad manners. I forgot to say hello to Jenny. Please, Jenny, I don't want to miss you, but just to say hello, and no doubt you'll be talking later. But thank you. But Roy, I want to. We only got about 15 minutes, so I want to sort of concentrate on a couple of key things that you can tell us about you and so on. And one of the things, particularly in the light of what is happening in the world today around Black people, is your experience in terms of trying to set up many organizations in the United Kingdom. You have had your hand in a lot of them. The United Colored People's Association, the Radical Adjustment Action Society, the Black People's Alliance, the Free University of British Studies, Black Studies, Black Rights UK, and obviously your work with HANSIB. In all of those organizations, you had a very clear approach to what you saw those organizations should be doing to address the issues in the United Kingdom. And one of the phrases I liked, which you described some of the people in those organizations, which was very much, as you said, they move, and I quote you, they move from outcasts to lover boys.
Maro boys.
You remember that?
Yeah.
So what was it like? What were the lessons learned then from all these various organizations you were involved in the 60s and 70s and 80s? Yeah.
Well, there were no organization when I came. The only organization they had going was the West Indian Standing Conference. And that did not appeal to students and younger people because the discrimination took place in the streets and not in the buildings or in the offices. And therefore, it was easier to get people who experienced it to join an organization to stamp out the racial discrimination that took place.
So some of those organizations you engaged with a number of individuals who were very active. Is there any one individual or one organization you felt that played a very important role, or you engage with that particular organization in a meaningful way?
I think the organization which Michael X was involved with.
Yes.
That played a very important role because when Michael X came from America, the racial discrimination issue become much more of a public thing. And it was public knowledge that we had to get together. If we wanted to solve our problem, we had to get together. And I think those were the basis of us getting together. With the Black Organization for Legal Representation, that was the one where we were giving free legal advice to Black people who had problems with this establishment.
Yeah, I found something preparing for this meeting. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh yes, yes.
My little tie from Black Rights and Justice House. Can you tell us about what it was like in the activism around that time with Justice House and Black Rights? Yeah.
Well, we had a few young black lawyers who had just passed their law degree, and they all came to do voluntary work on Saturdays, and a lot of people came for legal advice, and we gave people a lawyer who went and defended them without any charges. There were no charges. And I always say that never forget what Ansel did himself when he was trying to get a job and they had to compete with a woman who was pregnant, and Ansel gave up his position and gave the job to the woman who had pregnancy. My brother, we never forget that good thing you've done.
Yes, yes. But what I remember though was the kind of buzz and a hum of activity around that period where you would be able to come down. Obviously, it was lubricated by a bit of alcohol, but you know there was that kind of feeling of camaraderie and unity around that time when you were around. And I think part of it was due to your personality, the way in which you embraced everybody, even though you were very critical at times of individuals, including myself. But you brought everybody in a unified approach.
Yes, I was only critical because when people talk about multiracialism, people talk about integration. Some people didn't know what they were talking about. Some people didn't understand that when we say multiracial, multicultural, we're talking about people, different groups with different culture. I mean, look in Australia today. When the Australians came here at first, they met the Aborigines. The Aborigines didn't speak English. Today, the Aborigines speak English, but the English people don't speak Aborigine. So when we're talking about culture, are we talking about Indo-Saxons, or are we talking about people having and retaining their own culture with their language and embrace other people's culture rather than changing like we did in the Caribbean?
I think your struggle to retain the aspect of that culture and to fight for racial justice also had an impact on you personally in terms of your own personal health and your own personal career. And I'm thinking specifically of the iconic fact that you were one of the first person to be arrested under this new 1968 Race Relations Act. And you got a £120 fine for that, so-called incitement. What was it like to be able to constantly be fearful of arrest or fearful of attack?
No, I wasn't afraid because I assumed that speaking in Hyde Park, because they said it was a free place, you can go and stand up and say whatever you want. I didn't believe that people could be charged. And when I was charged for inciting racial violence, all I said was, somebody asked me, if you were in South Africa, how would you solve the problem? And I said, oh, very easy. They said, what do you mean? I said, every white family in South Africa has a black cook, 2 ounces of rat poison, and you can solve the problem overnight.
Yes, yeah. And what I think for me, the lesson is, interestingly, in terms of a postscript to that event, was the Commander Newman, who was the arresting officer at the time. It was he, Commander Newman, that was actively engaged in trying to ban the carnival and trying to say the carnival should not happen in that way. So he has a history, he has a record. So your personal welfare and health and safety was as an important consideration. What kind of impact it had this on your family?
Well, most of my family was back in Guyana. I didn't have any family in England at that time. All my family are back in Guyana.
Yeah.
So my family, I used to work and I used to send money every week. And then I realized that if you send money every week, it is very expensive. Why not send it every month? Because you can save 3 postages. We live and learn as we go ahead. And it wasn't easy because and a lot of people know that when we came from the Caribbean, our expectations were greater because of all the shit we were told about Britain in the Caribbean. Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves.
Yeah. In your time and your years, you have interacted or you have met a number of very important people, activists, celebrities, and so on. I'm thinking of people like Stokely Carmichael, Muhammad Ali, Lord Scarman, Michael X, and of course, Jenny. Who were the ones that you had the greatest respect and contribution to your development as an activist? The person
the one I admire was Stokely Carmichael.
Yes.
Because he was born in Trinidad, grew up in the States, and coming from a Caribbean background, he was in a position to articulate the Black situation in America so we can understand it in over here. Because over here we didn't understand what was going on in America because we thought America was free and would take care of the Black people and would take care of all the minorities. But then as we grew up and as we went along, we realized that America was as bad as the rest of the world.
I think, Roy, what final point I want to look at, for both of us, in terms of our particular heritage, I have a particular position in relation to how the struggle happened and this notion of Blackness. I was thinking of this thing in the Black People's Alliance, the work that you did, particularly with Jagmohan Joshi of the Indian Workers Association. There was a kind of recognition that Black had an all-inclusive embrace, and there was that kind of unity, which is slightly different from what is happening today. So people of my multiple heritage and people like you of our Asian Indian heritage had a particular struggle to get credibility within the community and within the activism. Is that a fact?
Yes, that's a fact. But you made your contribution too, because don't forget, you did a lot of work in your community when you were working at Brixton.
Yeah, but I was thinking, and one of the things we obviously had is the issue around the Indo-Caribbean community that many people didn't recognize and acknowledge. And I remember being the first council officer to appoint an outreach worker to the Indo-Caribbean Society in London, and we created the Indo-Caribbean Association because there's that recognition that we, as a community, the Indo-Caribbean were not recognized. Was that any particular, how did you manage that? Yeah.
Well, I supported the Indo-Caribbean Association in conjunction with the Afro-Caribbean Association, and I thought that they should get together. If they can't get together individually, they should get together as an organization. And because the issues were always the same, whether you're Indian or Afro, your treatment you get from the racists and the teddy boys, because remember, we could identify the teddy boys. They had their red laces on their shoes, and you could see them when they're coming, and you keep off the road.
Yeah. Okay. And my final point, really, Juanita, I hope I'm not exceeding my time, but my final point is around looking at what is happening around the activism today, like Black Lives Matter, the impact of the Black Power movement in the 70s and 80s, and the iconic centers in London that embrace it, like the West Indian Student Center in Earl's Court. Are you able to draw any kind of parallels between what is happening now and what we experienced during that Black Power movement?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities because America is such a big country and they deal with so many issues at different levels. Because look at what's going on. Black Lives Matters. How do you mean Black Lives Matters? Are you saying Black people doesn't exist and those who exist, their life they have matters? No. The trouble with the world in which we live in is that the Anglo-Saxon culture, the dominance it played in the world, the dominance it played in Africa and Asia, has got to be withdrawn sooner or later so we can go back to our normality in this world.
I wanted to end off in a sense with a couple of quotes, which perhaps is a portent of what you said so many years ago in 1968, for example, which I believe has come to fruition. And this is what you said in Hyde Park in 1968. I could encourage Black people, I could envisage, Black people being physically deported from this country. They would primarily be the older immigrants. And what has happened with the Windrush scandal is clearly an echo of something you said way then in 1968. When you look back on that, things haven't changed, have they?
And the other thing I said, jokingly, but there had some truth in it, that one day the daughter of Princess Margaret will go home and says, "Mommy, guess who's coming to dinner?" And I'm saying that we're going to get black people into Buckingham Palace sooner or later. Well, look at what Prince Harry has done. He's there. So
Yeah.
we're only halfway there. We got another halfway to go.
Indeed. Great. Juanita, my final point really, and I again take a quote from your book. Rudy Muhammad said, "No Black West Indian in Britain can boast of a truly successful story. There is always a missing ingredient, an unfulfilled hope." Do you have any unfulfilled hopes?
Oh yes, plenty. I mean, I would like to see, my black brothers and sisters take the rightful position in Britain. Look, we have two Guyanese who are in the House of Lords, and these people have made a lot of contribution to race relations. I am saying we can make a contribution if the English would just accept that we are a human being. We have our separate culture, we have a separate language, but we are still one member of the human race.
Thank you, Roy. And Jenny, thank you very much. And obviously, one of the things we can has an aspiration is at some point after this pandemic, you will return for another short visit to the United Kingdom. Is that on your bucket list?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Sorry, Judy?
Obviously, everybody's kind of displaced at the moment. So let's just get over the pandemic and then we can get back to some kind of normal. And we will, of course, be back in London. Roy's been, ever since the pandemic started, he's like, "Why aren't we going back to London?" It's like, no, we're not going. So yes, of course, we'll be back. Yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear from you later, Jenny. Thank you very much, Roy. It was a joy talking to you. And I'm sure a lot of other people on this platform would like to ask you a few things to clarify and to explore areas that I couldn't explore. Thank you.
Okay, my brother, all the very best for you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ansel. I actually wanted to just draw up on something that's not to do with politics or activism, but it was just the reference that was in the clip that we played earlier about the landlady being Australian. And I just wondered, Jenny, if you could share with us, is Roy talking about you? And if he is, how did the two of you meet?
Well, Roy meets all his best people in Hyde Park. So yeah, I was an Aussie on my work visa. And I decided one day that I'd, be a good tourist and go to Hyde Park. And there was this very well-dressed person in a suit standing on a ladder, speaking to lots of people. And so I stood there and listened, and he asked me a question and I went bright red and he made a joke and I thought, oh gosh, And anyway, so it was a week before my birthday, late October. And so I went around, had a little, look at some of the other people, and then somebody asked me if I'd like to go for a coffee to McDonald's, so I did. And who should be sitting in the doorway but Roy and his friends. And so I went and had my coffee, and we were coming back up, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry if I embarrassed you." And I said, "Oh, no, it's okay." And he said, "Oh, look, it's raining outside." And it wasn't raining. And but the guy who I was with looked outside and he put his phone number in my pocket. And then he asked me for my number. So I gave it to him and then went home. And about 2 hours later, I got a call, "Would you like to go for a drink?" And pretty much, I haven't been home since. And that was 38 years ago. So yes, I'm the landlady. I'm still waiting for the rent.
Well, the landlady, but and I understand he's now the landlord. Is that? So
I guess you could say that, yes.
Yeah.
So 38 years later, we're still landlord and landlady.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. A bit of a smooth operator there, Roy.
Give them a lot of practice, I believe.
Well, I couldn't comment on that, but fantastic. Thanks for sharing that story. So what I want to do now is just quickly go to share a clip with everyone it's an audio from Clem Cicherin. He had actually hoped to join the audience today, but he's allergic to Zoom. And so we decided to do a recording. So I'm just going to share my screen so that you can hear it. Let's see. Let me see if I can get this going.
Hey Roy, it's Clem here, calling from a very cold Philongly in Warwickshire. My brother, I'm wishing you a very happy 87th birthday in warm Melbourne. I hope things are going well and that you'll be able to visit us in the summer. You know, the good wishes come from all your friends here who respect you and love you for being not just a great friend, but a heroic pioneer. And I want to thank you for your contribution to a perspective which has made it possible for us to develop Caribbean studies and Black studies at universities in this country, and to give people a broader understanding and the depth of their contribution to this culture. You've always believed, although you had to educate yourself, you always believed in the importance of learning, distillation of learning, and your desire to... Hey Roy, it's Clem here, calling. You always believed in the importance of learning, distillation of learning, and your desire to communicate whatever you've learned in a very simple but a very powerful way, with the incredible humor, the capacity you've got to put that learning in such a humorous and such a dramatically powerful way to educate all our people. And it was because of you that ideas and people like yourself who worked with you, that ideas like Black History Month and the idea of studying Caribbean studies became so important here in this country. I'm sure others will speak of other dimensions of your contribution. And it was because of your contribution in education towards educating our people here in this country that the London Metropolitan University awarded you an honorary doctorate in December 2006. Now, not many people know of this. So what I want to do now, on the occasion of your 87th birthday, is to just read the brief citation. It will take about 3 minutes or so, which was read out when you were given the honorary doctorate in December 2006. So here we go, Roy. I present to you for the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, Mr. Roy Sawh. It continues. A phenomenal orator and inspirational communicator, Roy Sawh was, between the late 1960s and early 1980s, one of the foremost orators in Hyde Park, where in the company of veteran speakers, he educated British, European, and the Third World public opinion on the state of affairs in the various territories occupied by the British, particularly in Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. Racial discrimination was also rife in Britain at the time, and Roy, who was born on a sugar plantation in colonial Guyana, then British Guyana, gave his cosmopolitan visitors an authoritative account of the facts of life as seen by Britain's Black minority. Using humor and passion, he commanded some of the largest crowds ever seen at the historic Hyde Park. Part of his success was that he was able to articulate his community's experience in an entertaining manner, which reached all levels of both Black and white communities. To this day, people all over England and for parts of the diaspora, remember listening to Roy and learning from his experience. Together with a number of leading Asian, African, and West Indian intellectuals, Roy started the Free University for Black Studies. This led to the establishment of Black History Months, which continues to this day, and also to the incorporation of courses in Black history, literature, etc. into universities and colleges. The Free University took the view that the syllabuses of the British universities had so neglected Black persons' point of view that it was necessary to provide some specialized educational opportunities on a more enlightened pattern to Asian, African, and West Indian students. It helped to raise the consciousness of Black people about their own cause, so they could effectively create their own syllabuses and avoid the perpetuation of so-called master race theories. At this time, Roy was also worked for the National Organization of the Racial Adjustment Action Society, which was the first Black grassroots organization. Roy traveled around Britain, meeting with Black communities and setting up organizations in each area. Roy's Hyde Park oratory led to 4 convictions under the newly formed Race Relations Act, which was set up to protect the Black and other ethnic communities. This was an attempt by the establishment to thwart Roy's powerful influence as a speaker, a people's philosopher. Over the years, Roy has lectured at various universities and organizations throughout the UK and Europe, including the Oxford Union and the World Council of Churches, articulating, provoking, and educating all for Black community problems and issues. As well as being famous as a speaker, Roy is well known to many as the author of From Where I Stand, a book which documents the experiences of many Black and other peoples who came to the UK in the 1960s and 70s. London Metropolitan University has one of the highest number of students of ethnic minority family backgrounds of any UK university. Britain, and London in particular, is a multinational, multi-ethnic society and one that benefits from the talents and intelligence of all of its people. For some of you, watching your son or daughter gain a degree today will be one of the proudest moments of your life. One when we can all reflect on the family histories that have brought us to this point. This is just as true for our grandparents and great-grandparents, or Cockneys in the east of London, or rural farm workers in the countryside of England, or if they came to the UK from Jamaica, Guyana, India, Bangladesh, or Nigeria. Roy has spent much of his life trying to make this society a better one for all peoples, irrespective of their background. Roy Sawh, it is a great honor to have you with us here today. Presiding officer, I now invite you to confer upon Mr. Roy Sawh the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, honoris causa. Happy birthday, Roy. I hope that this reminds you not just of that day in December 2006, when the university honored you on behalf of the West Indian community, but I hope it reminds you of all the great things you have done to make the lives of people who have migrated to this country a better one. Happy birthday, my brother. Happy 87th birthday. Thank you very much.
Well, Roy, I hope you enjoyed hearing that wonderful tribute from Clem Sisha, and I should call you Dr. Sawh. Just remember. I think we'll move now to have a look at what's in the chat. I know a lot of people have put in comments and messages. So I may not be able to read them all, but I shall be saving the line of chat so that you'll have a copy of it in case I don't get to everyone. But I think the first comment came from Andrew. He doesn't say what his surname is, but I'll just read what he says to you. He says, "Hi everyone, it is a pleasure to be listening to and seeing such an iconic anti-racist activist. Roy's impact is phenomenal, and if only he knew how much his uncompromising words of wisdom and activism had caused on generations of Black activists and intellectuals." So he extends, he says, "God bless you." And then I've got a message from Joyce Swersky. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. Joyce says, "I wonder if he remembers the girl who sat in his room typing his appeal against his charges when he was to appear in court in London." Do you remember that?
Unmute. He needs to unmute.
No, I don't.
You say, okay. And then Chandra wanted to know, what was life actually like in prison for Black people? I think she's obviously referring to the period in, I think, 68 when you were in prison. What was it like? What were the conditions like?
It was harsh, very harsh, because you were locked up 24 hours a day, and some places were 23 hours. You were only allowed 1 hour to go out in the garden and walk. And it was rough. It was rough.
So, and what sort of, I mean, like the food, I guess you just had pretty like hospital food probably.
You had what food was cooked and prepared, and you just go and queue up and take a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Roy still has some claustrophobia from that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So were you in a cell by yourself, or were you sharing, or?
I was in a cell by myself.
Okay, wow.
Because I was charged with racial violence, they probably thought it would be best if they put me by myself.
Gosh.
And when I was in jail, a friend of mine from Sweden, he read about it, and he came over and he paid the fine. So I got out. And I said to him, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Well, I don't want you to stay in prison." I said, "But if you look at the West Indies, and if you look at the Commonwealth, all the British colonies became, the leaders went to jail before they became independent. I was only doing my apprenticeship."
That's one way of looking at it. Actually, it's reminding me, Rod was, we were talking about you yesterday, and he was just saying he wondered how you'd like to be remembered, you know, because there's so much comedy and wit, you know, in the way you say, you know, in your activism. And he just wondered, how would you actually like to be remembered?
Just being me.
Just being. But comedy seems to be a very key element, you know. Is there something about, I mean, was there a reason why you always kind of incorporated comedy and wit into your activism?
Yeah, because after I got arrested, I thought I can't carry on like this, otherwise I'll get charged again. So I decided to add humor. And because how many people will come and stand up there for 4 or 5 hours without humor in order to listen to me? So I had to mix it and put humor inside and deal with everyday issues which people can attach to.
Are there any particular standout moments for you at Speaker's Corner? I mean, I know you were pretty much prepared to talk about anything and everything. Were there any subjects that were taboo, or you just were, you know,
Oh,
it
no,
seems
I
like
talked
nowadays
about,
things are more politically correct, and I just wondered if there was any taboo.
oh no, I thought I did everything. I talked about the situation. I talked about the reality of life. I talked about how difficult it is to get a job. I talk about even if you get a job, you're not going to get the full pay. I talk about everything because I wasn't afraid, because I was under the impression that Hyde Park was a free place where you can stand up and say what you think.
Yeah.
And a lady with her brolly hit me on my head. And I said to her, why are you hitting me? She said, you should go home. I said, why should I go home? I'm at home. She said, you're not. She says, I am British. I said, no, you're not British, you're Scottish.
Okay.
So I got a question here from Ben Richardson, and he says there's a photograph of you at a march in London. It's the 12th of January 1969, and you're arm in arm with Chedi Jagan. And he says he hasn't been able to find any information on how this relationship between Chedi and the Black People's Alliance or Black Party came about. Are you able to kind of elaborate on that?
Well, Chedi gave me a scholarship to Moscow. I went to Moscow University and I had a 3-year scholarship. And while I was there, Black students were being killed in the river, in Moscow River. And I complained and they weren't listening. And I called a student strike and I brought out all the students. And the next thing I know, they got in contact with Chedi. And I don't know what Chedi told them. They deported me from Moscow. So Chedi and I didn't have a very good relationship.
Nice. Okay. So just because I'm conscious of the time, it's nearly 10 o'clock. There's a lot of tributes, so I'll make sure you get the tributes from the individuals in here. There's people like John Moore has sent a message saying, great to see and hear Roy Sawh after many years, influential and fearless. You educated many of us with your lectures at Speaker's Corner. Let me see if there's any particular questions. You're an inspirational hero. Yeah, I think the only thing I wanted to add is, of course, I don't know if everybody's aware, it's actually your birthday tomorrow.
Yes.
So I just, on behalf of the audience, just to extend very many happy birthday greetings here from the UK, and obviously from everybody in the audience who's joining from, they're all over the world. And then, so we'll move on shortly to the Calypso by Alexander the Great. But I just wanted to mention as well, somebody called Patricia, who says, Dr. Sawh, thank you for all your work and happy birthday. Could you please tell us a bit more about how things unfolded after your rat poison as a solution to apartheid comment?
I didn't get that.
She said, could you please tell us a bit more about how things unfolded after your rat poison as a solution to apartheid? I think you've pretty much covered that in terms of being arrested, but were there police actually there at Speaker's Corner listening as well? Were they always there every weekend?
Oh yes, they were there every Sunday. 2 of them were there and they were taking notes. And I said to the audience, look, even the police are taking notes. I'm giving them an education.
Giving the police an education.
Yeah, they don't needed it, no doubt.
Special branch had a very large file on Roy. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. And then Michelle says she always hears about the conflict between Africans and Indo-Guyanese people from back in the day. What's your perspective and how do you identify? So she's saying, do you see yourself as a Black person per se? And what do you think about some Indo-Guyanese people who are offended when they're referred to as Black people?
Well, all I say is for those people, they better grow up, because if they don't grow up, they'll be living in Kukulan. I am black. The opposite to white is black, not brown, not yellow. When you say white, I mean, when you say black people, you know who you mean. So whether you want to be brown and not black, that's your choice. But at the end of the day, when you go out there, you're a black person as far as the public is concerned. And I see myself as a black person. I see myself as a
Oh, I think your video's the connection has got stuck. Can you hear us still, Roy? Roy, the connection got stuck briefly. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Just one final question, I think. Let's have a quick look. So I think Brian Knight has interviewed you in the past, and there's a YouTube clip of the interview, I believe. But he's put a question in the chat saying, how important was the convergence of Black Power activists, counterculturalists, and students in the movement of the 1960s and 70s?
No, I'm not with that. I'm not with that.
You didn't hear it?
Yes.
I'm probably not reading it properly. How important was the convergence of Black Power activists, or maybe Black Power activism, counterculturalists, and the student movement in the 1960s and 70s?
Any contribution from anyone who were against racism and racist behavior were welcomed by us as an organization. It was an individual thing that people had to do, because we didn't force anybody to join. We didn't force anybody to do anything. If people decided that they wanted to take part, they joined the organization. And that was
okay, so inclusive. And then final question from Khadija George, and she says, her question is, are there any speakers today that you would listen to for 4 hours?
No, 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 I wouldn't.
Okay.
Because they're not interested once they got the facts wrong.
No. Okay.
Two, they believe everything they read in the papers. They don't check it out for themselves.
Yes.
3, the most important thing, the truth will prevail.
Indeed, indeed. So, thank you so much for that, Dr. Sawh. So what I'd like now is to move on to the wonderful Alexander de Great, who everybody knows as a professional musician, composer, musical arranger, who's been doing this for well over 30 years.
Yes.
Alexander, your contribution, please join in.
Thank you. Yes. By the way, I just have to say, apart from saying happy birthday, Roy, I also did quite a lot of work in the Cumberland Hotel, but as a gigging keyboard player. I did many gigs there, weddings, birthdays, you name it. So that was just across the road, obviously, from Speaker's Corner. Anyway, here's a song called After the Windrush. And although we know Black people have been in Britain for nearly 2,000 years, this is called After the Windrush because of all the problems that we have seen since after the Second World War. So for you. Caribbeans came to work in this land. We have been invited to lend a hand. Some served in both the First and Second World War. Coming back to rebuild is what we came for. We were all considered British back then. The mother country's good and loyal children. So deportation is now really beyond our ken. After the windrush. After the wind rush, it was hard to find accommodation, though we were told we were part of this nation. To bring over our families, we had years to wait, and then the rents they charged were extortionate. We did the jobs that few people liked to do, sweeping streets and cleaning bedpans of poo, though back home we'd been teachers, lawyers, and scientists too. After the wind rush, after the wind rush, we had indefinite leave to remain, and we worked hard and did not complain. Some of us integrated and made new friends, something upon which all society depends. Our key protection was recently removed from the British statute books unapproved. This should be reversed and the situation much improved. After the wind rush, after the wind rush, some have been here for more than 50 years, contributing with all their blood, sweat, and tears. Working in transport or the NHS, also helping people's real big sporting success. In the top professions, some have found a place, facts which the entire country must embrace, something we should all acknowledge with thanks and grace. After the wind rush, after the wind rush.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And happy birthday for tomorrow.
Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Jenny, I believe that you've got something there for Dr. Sawh.
Oh, yes.
Have we got something? We just wanted to do a presentation.
Roy, I've been asked to present this to you on behalf of all your admirers and beneficiaries of your dedication and robust defence of the community. And this is for you. It says, Roy Sawh, activist, pioneer, orator. I can't stand injustice, 2021. Should be kissing Ansel, but anyway.
Oh, thank you for that. Excellent. So that's basically on behalf of the Black community here in the UK. We just wanted to say thank you so much for your dedication and commitment to activism and to helping, you know, change the political landscape here for us. And so
the next time we meet, I hope my prediction that I made years ago will become a reality. We have a half black in Buckingham Palace. Another couple of months, we'll get a full black in Buckingham Palace, and then we will get the West Indian influence in Buckingham Palace.
Oh, okay.
And a black prime minister, that would be good.
No, we had a black president, and that wasn't very good at all.
Well, although I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to Trump now that he's been banned from Twitter. I imagine he's going pretty crazy in his bunker. So that brings us, it's 10 past 10. And that brings us, we've kind of gone over, but you know, I just thought this might be an opportunity, if you're willing to stay online, Roy and Jenny, then maybe people could chat to you directly. I'll kind of maybe ask people if they've got any particular
Yes,
Yeah. So if everybody don't unmute, if anybody can just indicate to me in the chat if they would like to speak directly to Roy, and then I can just select people and ask you to unmute individually. And but just so Andrew would like to talk. So Andrew, can you unmute please? And just share what it is you'd like to say.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Indeed.
You can see the grin on my face. It is such a privilege to be in front of someone you've adored all your life. I am originally from Sierra Leone in the 90s. Roy's tape that we listened to gave us that impetus to just go out there and get that historical awareness about your skin color and the importance of your race. Roy's inspiration is so phenomenal in Africa. We were searching for this guy. We had a lot of rumors. Some people said he's dead, and some said he's in prison. Africa was crying for this guy. If only we could have seen him in flesh and seeing him right now. Oh my God, you don't even know what this guy meant to me. I came to this country searching, but I didn't know his last name because we used to have tapes. So on these tapes, his full name was not written. So when I came, I used to share his tapes out to people that I know. And when I received this email from someone called Khadija Judge from my university, I told my wife, I said, could you believe it? I was just talking about Roy to you yesterday. This guy became the pioneer for Black Lives Matter and whatever you call it. The Caribbean gave us Bob Marley, they gave us Roy. And then we have these two historical figures. Oh, Jesus. Thank you for giving me this privilege, Roy. I just suggested something. It's like for us to compensate you. I know money cannot buy what you've done for us. If we can just raise a crowdfunding for this guy, just to show what he has done. Oh my God, thank you.
Andrew, thank you so much. That's such a touching tribute and amazing. I'm so glad you got the opportunity to speak to Roy. Roy, do you want to say anything in return?
Oh, I'm shocked and in a nice sense that I didn't realize that I had the effects on people like that. But I will continue to do what I do best.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you for your contribution tonight.
I just thank you. I just wanted to bring in somebody else. There's John Moore from New York would like to say hello. John, please unmute yourself. John, are you there still? John Moore? If not, can I bring in somebody called Con? Somebody called Con wanted to speak.
Yes, that's me. Hi.
That's you.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
It's Tom with my lovely partner Alex here. We've been fortunate enough to be blessed with Roy's presence in sunny Melbourne when he's not in winter. Not in London for the Melbourne winters. Met Roy a few years ago, and I've been blessed. He's a spiritual father to me. We had many scotches, red wines, coffees together. We were neighbours across the road for many years, and all those conversations have stayed with me. And listening to Roy's background and all his his work for people in regards to anti-discrimination that have stayed with me. Roy, happy birthday for tomorrow, my friend, my brother. Look after yourself. Cheers to Jenny and Roy. Look after yourselves. And it's been a privilege to share this evening with everybody here. So thank you very much, Roy, for being a big influence. And we love you. Take care.
Happy birthday, Roy. And thank you to all the organisers. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just, before you respond to that, I also just wanted to bring in Khalil Ali, please. Khalil, if you're on mute.
Hi, Roy. Happy birthday, Dr. Sawh. I'm absolutely proud to have even been born in West Coast, where you came from, Eiffel Estate. I was born in Inouye Estate, and I've written a lot about our ancestry and that sort of thing. And you have been a total inspiration to me and everyone who I talk to about you. I love your sense of humor, man. I mean, I try to write like that as well. It's a fantastic vehicle to get messages about our Blackness across to the rest of the people in the world. Thank you so much. You have been a total inspiration to people like me and others. Stay well, my friend, and look after yourself, and so to your lovely wife. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Khalil, for that. Dr. Sawh, do you want to respond to either Con or Khalil?
Oh, no, I will see them personally, and I will do that in person.
Yeah, okay, lovely. And I'm just going to read what Corinna says. She just says, thank you to all who organized this morning. Roy, it's a pleasure to be here today with you. Thank you for your inspiration and all you've done for the community. And I think that applies to everyone. Everyone's very grateful. It's actually really funny because I used to go to Speakers Corner in the late 80s, 88 and 89. And I loved Speakers Corner, and I just loved the heckling and all the craziness that used to go on. And I got very politicized by it. But I can't believe I didn't realize it was you until actually I met you at Tom Karan's house, and it was only after I left that event, I was scratching my head, wow. And I suddenly realized then when I looked up the videos that it was you. So my interest in Caribbean studies, I have to kind of attribute to you, and because it led me actually to then doing studying a degree in Caribbean studies with Clem Cicheron. So, but it's just weird the way the world goes around. So personal thanks from me too. And huge thanks just to everyone, to Ansel for his involvement in this event, and for actually connecting us. But also huge thanks to Alexander the Great for his amazing Calypso, and thank you to everyone who's joined us. As I say, the recorded event will be going on YouTube. I'll be posting a copy of this recording onto the Guyana Speaks Facebook page, so you'll be able to also see it there, and also on Twitter. But if everybody just wants to unmute at this stage, perhaps we can sing Happy Birthday to Roy before we sign off.
Have you heard me sing?
Well,
TV Wonder Version, please.
National
Brave.
I'm just going to pause the recording because I'm sure people won't want to hear us singing, but I'm going to stop that.